So I guess we have to get more fundamental here.
Yeah.
What is a woman?
Well, if we go by Blaire's examples, you were born a female. You were born with those chromosomes that makes you a female. However, with that, there are also chromosomal disorders that
Right, but we're not
also
talking about
That's different.
intersex. That's
Yeah.
separate. Those are
That's
rare
different.
conditions. What is
But-
a woman? Like, we need a working definition. You
Yeah.
said all women should be able to compete in women's
Yeah.
sports. How do we define who is a woman and who is not?
that, yeah. For me, it's my definition is that it's how you identify.
That's not a definition,
Listen,
though.
I know.
You
We need
understand
the
that that's not a
definition,
definition.
not yours. If we all live in this world where we all have our own separate definitions for everything, like that's called civilizational collapse. Like we can't even go on with everyone just making up their own definitions for everything.
So,
Especially for
Serena,
something so fundamental.
where I'm coming from, like, so by your definition, right now, if I were to switch in my head and start identifying as a woman, then therefore I am one.
You're a little tall for that, Brad.
Looking at my notes, to me, how I define it. A woman is someone whose internal self's lived experience or place aligns with womanhood.
What does
Whether
that mean?
It's my lived-in experience that how I identify and how I go about my life.
Such as, like, get more specific.
I dress as a woman, I identify as a woman, I present myself as a woman, I use she, her pronouns, I live my life as if I were a naturally born woman.
Okay, Blaire, I'm not really hearing a definition
yeah.
there.
Well, I heard Serena's definition, but the thing about, these concepts and words is that they have their own static definitions and meanings that no matter how we feel about them, like I can't just say like I think the color black actually looks something like it's yellow or something. Like that's not how it works. Like and you're free to have your own perspectives on your own life and experiences, but when we're having a debate and a talk about how things should run in the real world, don't you think that that would be like a bad idea to just have it go off of your own personal perspective?
I mean, that's how I operate. That's how I operate. And from my point and my discussion and how I frame it is...
But don't you think that's also kind of like an extreme narcissism that you just acknowledge that you think the world should run off of your perspective?
No, the world should not run off my perspective. The world should run off the perspective as the whole of the societal whole.
So then we shouldn't have trans women in women's sports.
If that's what we're running with, then yeah. I think they should for my own personal definitions, but if we're going to go off the biological definition of a woman born as a natural born female, identified with those chromosomes and all those features, then yes. Then you're going to have the trans women, trans men compete in their own biological sports areas.
I guess
as they were born.
I want to play you guys a clip, and then we can discuss the question of what's so wrong about that exactly, because Tom Steyer, who is a prominent Democrat running for governor in California, was asked about this, and here's what he had to say. Let's listen.
You talked about trans people. I'm totally in favor of trans athletes in high school. I think when you understand the vulnerability, the stress, the danger of being a trans kid, and you understand that almost half of them try to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And then you think we're going to punish those kids. We're going to cut them off from team sports. We're going to cut them off from participating in the community. We're going to cut them off from fun. It's like, no, we're not. No, we're not. And, as someone who played sports my whole life and loves sports and love playing sports, they're more important things than whether you start on your high school basketball team. And that is standing up for people who are under threat of death.
So there's a lot to unpack there. To me, it seems like he is very much downplaying the concerns of women and girls who have, scholarships on the line. And actually, it means a lot to young women. It meant a lot to me as a young man competing in sports. It's not just, get over it. You're not going to start anymore. too bad, so sad. And then obviously, that's not a real statistic that he cited. It's not true that 50% of trans youth attempt to kill themselves. That's a completely false statistic. And even the underlying statistics he's misquoting are not even accurate. But regardless, I mean, this is where we get into the emotional blackmail territory of this issue. Obviously, I don't want any trans young person or young person who identifies as trans to ever harm themselves. But it's like, to me, Serena, this feels like emotional blackmail. Like, you have to let something happen that's manifestly unfair to others, or this person may harm themselves. One, there's like no evidence that allowing trans athletes to compete in sports reduces suicide or anything like that. That's not a thing. But even if there was, it's like, could I tell you, like, let me play in Little League or I'm going to kill myself? Is that not? And then if you don't let me play in Little League,
that's very extreme. I mean, that's a very extreme example. And this is where I have a problem with the Democrats' message and what they're trying to accomplish. Because, yeah, you're right. We're not going to save. Trans kids aren't magically going to stop like hurting themselves or harming themselves because they get to be able to play the sport they want to play. There's larger, deeper issues there that need to be addressed. And I mean, honestly, I agree. It does feel like emotional blackmail, and it just makes me uncomfortable and you can call me a hypocrite for this, and see, kind of like my two sides here is that I don't like it when people play the emotions in a political state like that. You're drawing on the emotional heartstrings to make those people attached to you, to come to you and have you think that they understand your plight, your drama, and that they can magically solve your problems. When honestly, I don't feel that any of them have ever had my back or will have my back.
Okay, Blaire, your thoughts.
I'm glad you realize that, because Democrat politicians don't give a crap about any minority they purport to care about. So that's good, especially trans people. And the fact that he can so flippantly, refer to like half of, this demographic, minor version of demographic, killing themselves is so gross. But do you see any parallel between the way he was making arguments there and the way you did earlier in this video?
I mean, honestly, yeah, I do see it, and I do understand that now. Like, I do see, like, I was pulling from that, and it's not a great policy measure. And running off feelings is not how you make policy. It's how equitable and how you can still have that fairness, but still.
Serena, I'm kind of glad you're agreeing with us, but you were just yesterday literally retweeting praise of Tom Steyer for this statement.
I mean, at the time I retweeted it. It's one of those, well, it's nice that you finally see it, but at the same time, like, thinking about it and, reflecting on it and seeing it and understanding it more, and just like coming back to reality. It's like, well, it's one of those things that long term, okay, you say this, but what will you do long term for trans people and athletes and trans athletes?